How's it going, Rogues Gallery, and welcome to another Gundam card game video here on Red Zone Rogue. Today, we're going to tell you how to get the most out of your Gundam card game beta kit. This video is going to go under the assumptions that you have one Gundam card game beta kit, because these are pretty hard to get right now, at least here in the West. In fact, today is the first day that stores are going to be doing their beta kit events, and if you are one of the lucky folks out there who are able to attend and get one of these beta kits, well, hopefully this video will be useful to you, or if you're able to pick one up in the future. I hope there are a lot of these to go around. I really genuinely hope folks are able to get their hands on these, because these are really, really fun, and you can actually get a lot of enjoyment out of a single beta kit. You don't need to pick up 3, 4, 5 of these to get a full set. You can have a lot of fun with the single beta kit. In fact, in my experience, you can build 2 pretty fun decks out of a single beta kit, and they give you enough stuff in here to do that. Today's video is essentially going to give you some general tips on everything from storage and maintaining your beta kit in a way that I think is really, really fun, as well as some general deck building tips. You know, the old saying goes, buy a man a Gundam and he's got a Gundam. Teach a man to Gundam and he could Gundam for life. That doesn't sound right. Anyway, before we get started, a word from today's sponsor. This is Kel from the future, letting you know before we get started that our first official mecha sci-fi themed playmat is available for pre-order right now. Featuring our original character Katsumi Kadako as an ace mech pilot, with art drawn by the fantastic Pinakes, an artist who has worked on everything from Arc Knights in Azure Lane to model kit artwork and Grand Archive. Check the description and the pinned comment for links, and let's get to it. All right, so first things first, storage. After you open up your Gundam card game beta kit, you're gonna be like, hey, what do I do with all of these cards? And my recommendation would be to sleeve up every single card and find a nice storage box to store them in. And I'll tell you why. This is what I personally use right now. I have my entire Gundam card game English edition beta kit, just one kit, fully sleeved up here in one of the Tolarian Community College academic deck boxes, and it fits my entire beta kit sleeved up, and I have a deck right here. The only downside with this is you have to kind of split the deck between these two. You can't fit a full deck in one of these little compartments, but you can split it into 2 here. And then you have the rest here, and then you can also have your dice, and this is kind of like a nice little compact experience. You have a couple other options as well. This is just me being extra, and like, you know, I like having nice things. I would highly recommend this. You could also simply use your beta kit box. So let's go ahead and open this up. This one is my Japanese beta kit box. It's empty, of course, because, well, I have my English edition one in the background display here. But what you can do is you can actually take out all of the little foam pieces. Your cards will not fit back in here after they're sleeved, just so you know. Like, they're not fitting in there. So you can take out the foam, right? And it's, you know, you take out your foam and then you can put the cards in here. My problem with this is there's too much space after you do this, right? And your cards are gonna like bang around. But you can do this and it does work. So let me go ahead and take out these. Like I said, I do recommend sleeving up your entire beta kit. So get some sleeves. Hey, maybe some at redzonerogue.com when you're going and picking up our beautiful playmat here. Beautiful playmat here. You can pick up some Red Zone Rogue sleeves. You actually get a discount, by the way, when you pick up some sleeves and a playmat. Just, you know, just shill in my own web store. But yeah, sleeve up your entire beta kit, because what this lets you do is it lets you freely experiment and play with your beta kit to your heart's content, and you can mix and match your decks freely, take them apart without having to unsleeve them. But I digress. You can actually fit your kit in here, so we can take these out. Let's go ahead and take out my other deck. This is kind of the main deck that I've been playing here. I've tried to optimize this one instead of going for 2 balanced decks with my beta kit, which you can do. It's definitely possible. I opted for the strongest deck that I could possibly do. And we're gonna talk about this deck in just a second when I talk about deck building tips. But yes, you can sleeve up all your sleeves and stick them, or sleeve up all your cards and stick them back in your beta kit. It does work. you do have a little bit of like leeway and like stuff banging around, but you can put your like how to play thing back in here, and you're good to go. Yeah, like I highly recommend just sleeving up your beta kit, because once again, it gives you the ability to be flexible and to swap your decks around, to build your decks and mix and match to your heart's content. Highly recommended. You can go look at other videos about like what's the best decks, what's the best cards. But at the end of the day, we have about 5 to 6 months before this game officially releases. And I recommend just experimenting and playing with your cards. That's the biggest takeaway I want you to have from this. The way you can get the most out of your beta kit is to just play with the cards and have fun with them. Experiment. And sleeving up your deck, putting them in a nice deck box, or like I said, you can just use your beta kit box if you don't mind it getting messed up a little bit maybe. Yeah. That is the biggest takeaway. But, you know, let's give you some tips as well. Deck building tips, that is. Now, your Gundam card game beta kit comes with everything that you need to build 2 decks. It doesn't come with, you know, 2 full play sets. In fact, your beta kit is very random to a degree. You're going to get a basically one of each of the LRs. You will get an extra one as a box topper, but you will end up with one of each. We also have the Wing Gundam that I have in the green decks. You're going to end up with one of each, as well as a seeded pack and kind of a random assortment of boosters. Now, if you want to see a full opening of that, I have that on the channel. Actually, a couple different ones. One opening a Japanese beta kit, one opening the English beta kit at the world premiere event. And if you also want to see gameplay of this, I already have 2 gameplay videos with much more to come. But essentially, you can build 2 decks. It gives you 20 resources, and you have 10 per deck. It gives you enough tokens, and it gives you enough EX resources and EX bases. This is a nice little promo that I got for attending the world premiere event, but it does come with 2 of the regular EX bases. And so, like I said, one thing that you can do to maximize your enjoyment of this is you can build 2 decks. One for yourself and one for a friend to play, so they don't have to have their own beta kit. If your friend already has a beta kit, then you can maximize your deck to the fullest potential, which is what I've done here with this deck, because I'm going to be playing this deck in some future gameplay videos. And now, let's talk about some gameplay, well, not gameplay tips, but just some deck building tips in general. So if you're new to this, you might be like, well, how do I build my deck? What should I focus on? Well, this is not really a deck building thing. Just make sure you have all your resources and tokens and all that kind of stuff sleeved up for play. Like I said, sleeving up every single card is really, really nice and easy, makes it really, really fast. All right, the first tip I'm going to give you has to do with cost, right? We're going to talk about cost, and we're going to talk about essentially like card type breakdown. How many units should you have? How many pilots should you have? How many bases should you have? And then we'll talk about anything extra as well. But the most important thing, in my opinion, is level cost. Now, this is going to be your big break point for your deck in terms of like actual gameplay here. So when you're looking at a Gundam card game card, you have the level requirement up at the top, and below that you have the cost requirement. You cannot play the card unless you have the level number of resources available, right? They don't have to be you know, untapped. We'll use common magic terms here, since a lot of folks will be familiar with these terms. They don't have to be untapped. You just have to have that number of resources in order to kind of enable, you know, to play this, right? So, for example, if you are level 5, right, you could play this level 2 cost card, and you can also play this level 3 cost card, right? And what that means in terms of actual gameplay is, generally speaking, you can't play this card until turn 5, unless you have some, you know, ramp strategy going on. And so that means you really should prioritize having a good number of, I would say 1, 2, and 3 level cards in your deck, so you can actually play cards on the first couple turns of the game. Otherwise, you're going to get completely run over, and tempo is a huge, huge thing in this game. And now, as you can see, I've kind of sorted these out by their level requirements here, with level 4 being the biggest chunk. And I found this, at least this is true for the beta version, most of the cards that you want to play are going to be level 4. That's going to be your big bottleneck point here. So you want to make sure that your level 3, 2, and 1 piles add up to about your level 4s or more, right? You want more or equal of this side than this side, so you actually have some early drops. Now, the reason I say this is because the level requirement isn't the same as the cost. So once you get to level 4, there's a lot of times you can drop like 2 level 4 drops in a single turn, because as you can see here, we have some level 4 cards, but they only cost 2 to play. We even have a lot of level 4 cards that cost 1 to play, right? So you can have a turn where you can play 2 cards at once. You hit level 4, you can play your Strike Gundam as well as Kira Yamato on the same turn. So the cost requirements and the level requirements are one of the more tricky parts about this game, but I just want you to, have the takeaway. Make sure you have enough low drops. I think 1 drops, or rather specifically level 1 cards, are really rare. There's only 3 in the game currently, and there's 1 for each color, and they're basically little units. For this deck, I'm running a full playset, so as much as I possibly can, 4 demi-trainers and 4 balls, and they're simply just 1-drop 1/1s with a minor effect. And why these are so good is, well, you can play them turn 1, but also, when you're dealing damage to your opponent, when you're trying to attack them, you only need to deal 1 damage to their shields to destroy a shield, right? That's not true for dealing damage to their base, right? You have to deal damage equal to the base's health here. But after you break through this health and destroy their base, you can attack their shields directly. And all you need to do is deal 1 damage to break a shield. So the little tiny 1-drops can actually be very, very useful if they're kind of like backing up a much, more powerful mobile suit. So yeah, don't underestimate your 1-drops. That's another level 1s. That's another one. And then you also have your level 2s. There's a lot of really, really powerful cards in this game. Removal is kind of at a premium. In the beta versions, there's not a lot of 2-for-1s and not a lot of removal. So stuff like Gun Tank, which can deal damage to units, is very, very useful. And stuff like Hawk of Endymion is also really, really useful because he can return a unit with HP 3 or less to the opponent's hand. And if it's a token, it ceases to exist. So if your opponent has some of those nasty 3/1 Zaku tokens, or if they have any of the 3/3 Gundam tokens, then you can just kind of get rid of them permanently, just at the simple 1-drop. So yeah, Hawk of Endymion I think is really, really good. One of the best cards in the beta kit in my opinion. And then I think this is just the best card in the beta kit. It's a simple level 2 1-drop. Just draws 2 cards and you discard 1. I think card draw in this game, just like every TCG, is incredibly powerful, but it's exceptionally powerful in the Gundam card game because a lot of cards have a low cost but a high level requirement. So in late game, for example, with this card, this is a level 4 requirement and it has a 3 cost and it just says draw 2 cards. Now if you are on turn 5 or 6 and you play this, you draw 2 cards and then you'll have 3 resources left over. There's a good chance you can play 1 or both of those cards just by playing this, right? Because if it's turn 6, you'll have 3 resources left. And as you can see, there's a lot of these high level cards that cost 3 or less. Look at these all cost 2. So if you draw 2, like say, once again, use the example. We're on turn 6, right? You play this, you draw 2 cards, you have 3 resources left. If you draw, we'll use this again, the Strike Gundam and Kira Yamato. You draw these 2, you can play them both, and you're in business. You have a 5/4 that can attack immediately. We also have another pilot, Soletta Mercury. She's also a 1-drop. So we can use a different combination. If you draw the aerial Bidon form, as well as Soletta Mercury, bam, you can play them both. So I think this card's super, super good, especially in like the mid to late game, where you can draw 2 cards, and then play multiple of them in a single turn. So like I said, there's a lot of the really powerful cards will have a high level requirement, but a semi-low cost, so you can kind of double up. Yeah, so that's going to be the cost portion of this. Let's kind of break down the portion where we talk about how many units you should run versus like pilots, bases, and everything else. Now, the Gundam card game is a game where you have 50 cards in your deck. You can have 4 of any one card, and as such, with your units being basically your core strategy of the game, at least at this point in time, you want most of your deck to be units, and I would say at least half, if not a lot more. So this is my deck. This is a 50 card deck. I run 29 units, so almost 30 units. And there are many times, and I've played a lot of games of the Gundam card game so far, there are some times where you just don't have a unit and you literally can't do anything and you just die. So you want to make sure you have enough units that you can actually play them out and you can, you know, have a functioning deck to actually combat your opponent. Now, it's really tempting to run a lot of pilots because pilots seem super useful, especially the pilots like Hawk here, which have multiple functions. And I think these kind of pilots are very, very strong. But don't discount pilots like Soletta Mercury and Kira Yamato, who are just really, really good for those link effects. And so if you don't know what a link effect is let's take a look at this Isle Strike Gundam. At the bottom here, it says Kira Yamato. Now that means if you use Kira Yamato to pilot the Isle Strike Gundam, they are now considered linked. And what that means is that your Isle Strike Gundam can attack the turn it comes into play. So if you are on turn 5, for example, this is a level 5 requirement Gundam, you can play this for 4 and then attach Kira Yamato, and now you have a 6/5 that can attack immediately. And that's really powerful in this game, once again, because there's not a lot of removal, and being able to attack immediately can add a lot of pressure. So having pilots that can, you know, link up with your mobile suits is really, really strong. But once again, you don't really want to go too overboard on it because, well, if you end up with a handful of pilots, then you're not going to be able to do anything without the mobile suits. Also, general gameplay tip, don't be afraid to play a pilot just on a mobile suit if you can't properly link them up. The stats, you know, can be worth it more often than not, I would say. I would also just generally recommend, if you are building a deck and you kind of want to theme it around, having pilots that can pilot multiple mobile suits and link them up is really good. So here we have Soletta Mercury. She is Soletta Mercury, obviously, but she also has this Academy trait, which means she can pilot any of her own mobile suits, like the Gundam Aerial, but she can also get link bonuses from the Daryl Blade, or the Daryl Balde, my apologies, which has the Academy trait here. I like saying Daryl Blade. It's got a big blade, all right? It has the Academy trait here. So she would get the link bonuses for this and then be able to attack immediately. Another good example of this is Kira Yamato and Hawk here. So Kira Yamato and Hawk both have the Earth Alliance trait. So that means Kira Yamato can pilot, you know, his Isle Strike Gundams because it's Kira Yamato. However, we also have this Perfect Strike Gundam that has the Earth Alliance trait. So that means Kira Yamato and Hawk can both link up with the Perfect Strike Gundam to give it the ability to attack the turn it comes into play. So once again, thinking about that in terms of your deck construction can really make your deck a lot more powerful, especially once again, we'll come back into Hawk. He has multiple functions, right? You have Mula Flaga here, so you can actually, you know, pilot the Gundam and get that bonus, but you can also play it as the command, as the effect here, which is really, really nice. And so, coming back to it all, I wouldn't run too many pilots right here. So here I am running, 9 pilots. I don't think any more than 10. You can try to go for it. Like I said, sleeving up your beta kit and playing around with it is a good idea, and experimenting, because once again, we have 6 months before this comes out. However, I will caution you against running too many pilots. There's times where you just have pilots in your hand and you just can't really do much. The same is true for command cards. Most of the command cards that I am playing, literally all of them, are either draw spells or removal. And like I said, removal is at a premium in the Gundam card game, so I think stuff like the Witch and the Bride here is very, very good. Has a really high level requirement, but it's just a really, really nice removal that also has a removal on burst, which is when you're, if it's one of your shields as it gets destroyed, you get that burst effect, which is really, really nice. Otherwise, these are just going to be gas, right? So it doesn't matter if they're not a mobile suit, if they're not a unit, you can always play it and then draw some cards, and hopefully you draw into one of your mobile suits. And then finally, we have bases. And this is the one that I've kind of gone back and forth on quite a bit. I've run decks that had like 8 to 12 bases, and this deck currently only has 5 bases. Why only 5? Well, I think these are my favorite bases in these colors. I really like the Archangel because I'm running a lot of the mobile suits with the blocker trait. And then I think the white base is just one of the best bases in the entire game right now, being able to deploy tokens, basically. I want to keep calling them mobile suits, but unit tokens, which is really, really solid. These are the only ones that I got in my beta kit. So if I had more of these, I would probably experiment with running the full Monty, like 8, right? So 4 white bases and 4 archangels. But looking at the other options that I had, this is really what I wanted to play with, and I found this isn't too bad. I think a good sweet spot for bases is probably between like 5 and 10, but I would caution against using too many of them, because even though they protect your life or protect your shields from damage, every time you deploy one, you do have to take a shield and put it into your hand. So it does effectively damage you, even though it does protect you. So you can't just spam bases and be invincible. So you have to, keep that in mind when putting these into your deck. So I think being moderate about it, like I said, 5 to 10 is good. But the big takeaway here is make sure you just have enough units. This is the big one. I would say at least half of your deck, if not more. Like I said, I'm running almost 30 out of the 50 cards, 29 in this particular deck, but I wouldn't fault you if you wanted to go a little bit more. Having these effects is really, really nice, especially the pilots, but you don't want to run into the situation where you just don't have anything to play. All right, and those are all of my tips on how you can maximize your Gundam card game beta kit experience. I hope they were really useful to you. If you liked the video, please, like, subscribe. We're really getting close to 20,000 subscribers. We're going to do a big celebration when we get there. Hopefully that doesn't age poorly. And yeah, this is kind of the breakdown of the deck, by the way, in case you wanted to see the deck list of the deck that I was talking about. Some of the cards are off screen here, like we're running 3 of the white base, and we have 3 of the Soletta Mercury here. But this is kind of the breakdown of the deck if you wanted to take this into account. This is my favorite deck so far that I've made. I really thought a green-blue would be my favorite, but I'm really enjoying white. I think white is quite strong as well. I think the beta kit is just a lot of fun. And like I said, the big takeaway, experiment. Sleeve up your entire beta kit and just build some decks, play around, experiment. You have enough cards to make 2 decks so you can play with a friend, and I would just highly recommend just doing that. You can go ahead and search online for best decks, tier list, best cards, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we got a lot of time between now and the official launch of the Gundam card game, so just play around, have fun with it. I know I personally am, and that is my big recommendation to everyone out there. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Yep, we'll see you later.